Your accountant and your attorney, they're not worried about your income. It's great. But they're worried about what happens to everything you've built when something goes wrong. And you have no formal structure in place to protect it. Most high-earning commercial real estate brokers, they operate as extraordinarily productive professionals inside a business structure that was set up once at the beginning and never seriously revisited. In this video, I'm going to show you the 3 business structure mistakes I see commercial real estate brokers make, mistakes that their advisors can clearly see and that brokers themselves almost never address until there's a crisis. Mistake 3 is the one no one talks about, but it's also the one that has the biggest and most immediate financial consequence. So stay with me here. Here's the thing about business structure mistakes in commercial real estate brokerage. They're almost exclusively made by successful brokers. Not struggling ones, but successful ones. When your income is strong, the urgency of structural questions, well, that kind of disappears because you're busy and the deals are closing. Fixing the architecture, the structure feels like a problem for a slower quarter, and the slower quarter never comes because you're busy and you're successful. So the entity structure never gets updated. The operating agreement from year 1, well, that's still governing your business. And there's no formal buy-sell arrangement. The business is more valuable than it has ever been and more structurally fragile than it ever looked. Business structure mistakes are not made by brokers who don't care about their business. Of course they do. They're made by brokers who are simply too busy building it to protect it. So here are the 3 that I believe matter the most. Mistake number 1, operating in the wrong entity for high income, right? Most brokers set up the entity early when income was modest, it was 0. And simplicity just made sense. The sole proprietorship, a single member LLC, maybe. That was the right decision then. The problem is that the entity structure from year 2 is still the entity structure for year 15. And the business is now producing and earning, I don't know, 400, 600, 800, 1 million, 8 million, $18 million a year. It has a completely different structural needs than one when it first started up. And here's what operating the wrong entity actually costs a high earning broker. First, yes, tax exposure. The difference between most and the least efficient tax structures at significant levels of income can be tens of thousands, likely hundreds of thousands of dollars annually. Not marginal differences, but tens or hundreds of thousands. Every year without making the right structure is a year of compounding unnecessary tax burden and liability exposure. A sole proprietorship has 0 separation between professional liabilities and personal assets. One transaction dispute, right, even when resolved in your favor, well, it can reach into your personal accounts, your home, your investments, in ways a properly structured entity will just prevent. Enterprise value. A business without formal entity has no legal entity independent of its owner. It cannot be valued, it cannot be transferred, it cannot be sold. It's not a business. It's a high-performing individual with a license. The question is whether or not, well, the question is not whether or not you have an entity, because most brokers do. The question is whether the entity is designed for the income that you earn now and the income you're going to earn, right, when things first set up is different. So this first mistake is about structure. It's all about structure. The next mistake is what happens inside that structure, and it's the one that really destroys most partnerships, and that's what it is. Just a quick timeout before we get to the rest of this video. Hope you're finding value. But look, if you're enjoying this video, we got so much to share on my YouTube channel. So subscribe right now. Hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified next time I bring you valuable content to help you make more money in less time. Okay, let's start with the rest of the video. No formal operating agreement, or never one that's updated, right? And so let me describe a situation that plays out in commercial real estate offices, unfortunately, with regularity. 2 brokers that build a business together. Equal investment, equal effort, roughly same production. They put together this operating agreement, right? And it's drafted by an attorney or pulled from the internet, or maybe AI makes it today. And they move on because deals start to close. Years pass, contributions become unequal. One partner sources more, one handles the operations. Compensation evolves informally. One wants to bring in a junior broker with equity upside. The other doesn't. And then one of them wants to leave. And the operating agreement from year one that's never been updated, well, it was drafted when the business was worth a fraction of what it's worth today. And that's what governs the situation that was never designed to govern. What happens next is expensive. Legal fees alone can reach easily six figures. Relationships will be destroyed. Clients will be disrupted. And the outcome almost never resembles with what other partner originally intended. An operating agreement is not a document you need when everything is going well. No, it's a document that determines what happens when, well, things stop going well. The time to draft it carefully is before that moment, not during it. And this applies to solo operators too. Without a current agreement, what happens if you become incapacitated? If a family member inherits your interest or a key employee claims entitlement to a piece of what they helped build? Those questions get answered by default rules, which almost always never align with your actual intentions. Pause this video and ask yourself, when's the last time your operating agreement was reviewed by an attorney who understands commercial real estate brokerage and your current situation? If you're not sure, that's your answer. Okay, now mistake 3. One I told you no one talks about. And so here it is. Mistake 3. No income to wealth conversion architecture. Most brokers think business structure is a legal question, an entity type, an operating agreement, a liability protection. And they're right. But there's a third dimension that sits in that gap between what the attorney and the accountant, which is exactly why it almost never gets addressed. And it is the architecture that converts income into lasting wealth. Here's the reality I see across almost all high-earning brokers I work with. Strong GCI, strong lifestyle, and a net worth that doesn't reflect either their income history or the years of effort that produced. The money came in and it went back out. To taxes that were never managed properly, to a lifestyle that expanded to meet their income, to a business that generated revenue without building equity. High income is not the same as wealth. Earning a high level for a long time without income to wealth conversion architecture produces exactly what you expect. A very well-funded present and surprisingly thin future. What does this architecture look like? Well, entity structure that minimizes tax drag. Retirement vehicles maximizing annually and appropriately at the income levels. Investment discipline that deploys surplus into assets rather than lifestyle. A compensation structure that pays the owner in the most tax-efficient way available. And none of this is complicated. All it requires is intentionality. And almost none of it happens by default, because the default is to pay the taxes, keep what's left, spend what feels comfortable, and defer structural decisions to a quieter quarter. The attorney sees this clearly. The accountant, they see it really clearly. They both know that the broker in front of them is earning at a level that should produce substantially more wealth than it is. And without a formal structure, an intentional integrated income to wealth architecture, well, that gap, it compounds in the wrong direction for as long as it goes unaddressed. You cannot accidentally build wealth at a higher income level any more than you can actually build a business. Both require a plan, both require a structure, and both require a decision made before the urgency of not having them becomes, well, impossible to ignore it. Here are 3 huge mistakes, and one connects them all. None of them caused by negligence, none caused by ignorance, every single one caused by a broker who's prioritizing building a business over structuring it, and told themselves, we'll get to it to the next slow quarter. A slow quarter, well, for high-producing brokers, that's just a myth. And structure doesn't build itself. Every quarter you operate without it is a quarter of compounding your exposure in taxes, in legal risk, in wealth that you should be building, but it isn't. I'd like to ask you one honest question before we close out this video today. I give you the 3 mistakes: the wrong entity, the outdated agreement, no wealth architecture. And which one do you already know that you need to address, right? This is not theoretically relevant musing, but there's one right now that your attorney or accountant can point to immediately and say, if they're sitting next to you right now, this is the one you got to address. And that answer is your first call to make this week. If you want to share in your comments, I will respond to each and every one with an honest reply. Hey, again, the business that you've built is exceptional and deserves a structure that protects it, a plan that grows it, and, well, an architecture that converts everything you've earned into something that lasts. That's not the work of a slow quarter. It's the work of a decision that you make today. Okay, if you enjoyed this video, I think it's important to one of your colleagues, please share it. Absolutely, please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more information about building a commercial real estate business and life that you desire. If you want to look at a framework for how to build a 7-figure business, check out our CRE Broker 7-figure roadmap down below. Okay, until next time, this is Santomassimo with the Massimo Group.